Psychology has always been a field of fascination for me, but since high school I've never really studied it in much depth. Obviously, the two names I always think of first are Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, two men who were initially friendly with each other and worked together in their field, but eventually branched off due to their differences. But according to the film A Dangerous Method, there was another link between these men. Sabina Spilrein, who was a patient of both men and ended up becoming a psychologist herself, though she's not nearly as well known as the two men she influenced. David Cronenberg's latest film explores the relationships between these three figures. Freud, played by Viggo Mortensen, is the reigning figure in the world of psychology, known for his founding of psychoanalysis. Carl Jung, played by Michael Fassbender, is beginning to question whether Freud's method should limit people from doing anything else, or exploring other aspects of the field. At the beginning of the film, Jung takes on Sabina Spilrein, played by Keira Knightley, as one of his patients. The movie puts a lot of focus on the conflict that arises when Jung takes Spilrein as a lover, as well as the conflict between Freud and Jung as Jung continues to question Freud with more and more frustration, even as Freud resists challenges to his supremacy. We also have Vincent Cassel in a small supporting role as Otto Gross, a psychoanalyst turned anarchist whose opinions of free love and polygamy influence Jung into his decisions surrounding his deep feelings for Spilrein. Considering its smaller budget, A Dangerous Method is a very tight film, set mostly in a pre-World War I Austria and Switzerland. As for the historical accuracy, I'm not quite sure how accurate it was, so I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, considering historical accuracy is something that these movies would seem most interested in obtaining. But the film's biggest strengths lie in the writing and in the performances. Dreams and symbols are analyzed in between puffs on cigars or pipe tobacco, and questions of ethics are brought up hesitantly among these people. Knightley does a really intense job playing this woman, whose psychological trauma stems partly from a deep sense of masochism that she's initially ashamed of, if the film is to be believed. Opposite her, Michael Fassbender proves once again that he's one of the best actors working right now. While there is a lesser focus on Sigmund Freud than the first two I mentioned, Viggo Mortensen is no less talented as he embodies the imposing figure of the father of modern psychology. Aside from those three, we get a very conserved and poised performance by Sarah Gaden as Jung's wife, and a joyfully devilish performance from Vincent Cassel as Otto Gross. Cronenberg is a fascinating Canadian filmmaker whose films such as Videodrome and Crash have always examined psychological themes. I'm sure a lot of his fans were very happy to finally be getting a movie from him on the figures of Freud and Jung themselves, and I think A Dangerous Method will also revive interest in the figure of Sabina Spilrein, one of the first female psychoanalysts ever. The film won't completely explain the theories of any of these figures, but it's not pretending that it could do that in a movie less than 2 hours long. Personally, I think it'll do a great job arousing more interest in looking these characters up after the film's over. It certainly worked that way for me, but even if you're not going to immediately want to immerse yourself in psychology, I think you'll at least be satisfied with the film that you watched and be happy that you chose it. Because really, I think it's quite obvious to people which audiences this movie is aiming for, and it will certainly find them.